Welcome to the Inside Carolina Postgame Podcast. Tar Heels survived Baylor and the Three Little Bears in Fort Worth to advance to the Sweet 16. With the Postgame Podcast comes Dewey Burke, all the way from vacation, Johnny T-Shirt, JohnnyT-Shirt.com sponsoring us. Dewey, they won. Not sure how, but they won.
I felt sick to my stomach. I felt physically ill during the latter part of that second half. I will say this. Obviously, we're going to get into everything, but you can make a very good argument that Caleb fouling out was actually more crucial than Brady getting kicked out, because no ball handling and our inability to handle the press was staggering. And then I'll say this once, and you and I share that we don't like to talk about them. The referees, that was a travesty, the way they lost control of that game. Now, we did not do a good job down the stretch of handling pressure, having poise, still getting shots. But the referees lost control of the game, and that is inexcusable at this level at a game like that. That's all I'll say, but that inexcusable.
I will say this. I had been on the ref bandwagon the last couple of weeks. I thought they had really called some good games, even the ACC. I thought this crew had called a good game on Thursday, but they were brutal. I mean, we could debate the Manek ejection, whatever. I've seen a heck of a lot worse, and people don't get
you don't take a kid out of the game for that. You do not. If Brady had 0 points and was not playing well at all, you do not take that moment away from a kid in a very physical game with an inadvertent elbow. Flagrant one, fine. You do not take that moment away from a kid like that. That is what I mean by inexcusable, especially as physical as the game had been up to that point. It was a very physical, and I don't even know how you pronounce the kid's last name. Sohan was the most physical player in the game and involved in all three spats that resulted in extracurriculars. So to not consider that and then take the moment away from a kid, that is my problem with that ejection. You do not do that.
Yeah, I mean, just horrific call there. Changed the game. But to your point, just off air, Caleb Love fouling out was as big, if not bigger, than Manek's absence. Why?
It was bigger. It was bigger. We could have survived Brady not being in there if we had that second ball handler. But as soon as they put the pressure on, we couldn't handle the pressure. We couldn't get the ball in. Leakey, who's supposed to be, in theory, our third best ball handler, made several mental mistakes going into the corner and just doing things that you know in grade school. The dead corners against pressure, you don't go there. And he did it 6 or 7 times. But we were so thrown off kilter by 2 of our 5 starters all of a sudden being gone in a matter of minutes that we just weren't prepared to handle it well, and they didn't handle it well. But we'll give them credit for how they played in overtime. Certainly, you give Styles credit; he stepped up, made a humongous 3, and they did just enough. But I was not feeling good when I went to overtime.
Yeah, it just sort of started slipping and slipping away. I don't know which is more impressive, and I want to get your take as a guy that played the game at this level. I don't know if it's more impressive to me to see Carolina build that lead against Baylor, who is a very, very good basketball team, or survive and especially come back and win in overtime. I mean, I don't know which one I think is the most beneficial for this team. I think the fact that they did win in overtime says a lot about the Stones on this team, on this basketball team.
And the Stones of RJ Davis. I think it's the latter of your question. I think to survive that somehow and still win, because the way we played in the first half, that's the same team that we saw against Marquette. That's the same team that we saw at Cameron. So we've shown flashes of being able to play that way in spurts. So we had seen that effort, as good as Baylor is. What we hadn't seen was complete chaos with that kind of pressure. Down 2 starters with only 1 ball handler, missing free throws, turning the ball over. They're hitting everything was going again. You could feel it. And that's why I said I was sick to my stomach. I mean, I felt like I was going to throw up because you could feel it slipping away. You could feel it slipping away. And then when it went to overtime, I did not feel good about that. I thought to myself, we had to win that game in regulation because of the amount of momentum that Baylor had. But man, they found a way.
They did. Dontrez Styles hits the big three to open the scoring in the overtime, and then Carolina manages to do just enough in overtime. Let's talk about R.J. Davis a little bit. Thursday, it was Manek and Caleb Love. R.J. shoots 1 for 10. Tonight, R.J. 17 in the first half, 14 in second half and overtime, 13 in second half and overtime. Just speak to what you saw from him. I mean, he's not the biggest guy. He's not the most athletic guy, but he is the dog that Carolina has needed for a long time.
He is tough as nails, full of confidence that I think he has anyway, and then getting more of it from his coach, which you've heard him say. That and one with the left was as big a bucket as he's ever had in his life. And obviously played great when we were rolling, making threes, shooting the ball well, distributing. But I was texting, obviously, like we talk about with my teammates, and he was exhausted. I mean, RJ, how many minutes did he play?
45.
It had to be
all of them.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say, I didn't know if he came out, but I mean, he was exhausted. And did just enough, but I don't remember. You go back further in terms of your memory of Carolina games. I'm trying to think of a game that was anything like this in terms of the Coach Williams there. I mean, obviously the Georgetown game, which was my last game, we never got up by 20 plus. We were up 11 with 3 minutes to go, but we lost in regulation, didn't we?
Yeah.
Or did that go overtime? Yeah, regulation.
I was thinking about that. But I didn't want to bring it up to you because I know how you feel about it.
Yeah. I think about it every March, so don't worry. But yeah, just can't remember giving up a lead that large and that you could feel it happening. Like when we were up 9 and 7, and I was like, they're going to tie this game. Like you just could feel it. And we missed a couple free throws, but I really do think we need to give the kids credit for finding a way in overtime, because they could have folded and we could have lost that game by, I mean, if the final score of this game was 96-85 Baylor, you wouldn't have been surprised when we got to that point.
Mm-hmm.
If they came out, they hit a three, they get a steal, they get a bucket, all of a sudden Hubert calls timeout and we're down 5, and the kids, like, they don't even know how to react to that. But Styles makes a big bucket. We came down, we got to stop. Man, incredible gut check.
Absolutely. I kept saying you can't let Baylor take the lead. You cannot if they get the lead, this game's over. And Carolina managed not to do that. They tied it. RJ made several I'm dead tired foul plays there to at least get in one. Let's talk about the beginning of the game before we get out of here, because I do think it's relevant. Carolina's ability to guard Baylor in that first half is something that can carry this team beyond next weekend, quite frankly.
It's hard to even think about next weekend. And I'm definitely going to go back home. It's in Philly, but look, those minutes are going to prove to, I think, be very valuable for some of the guys that were forced into action and forced into critical moments to handle the ball. Styles, more than anybody, a couple big buckets, and then again, the biggest 3 of his life. I feel bad for Brady, because I don't know what that must have felt like sitting in there watching that, especially as well as he was playing. And I just didn't. I'm not answering your question. I'm just talking. Sorry.
No, you go.
I didn't see it. What was so flagrant about that? Is it because it was above the shoulder? Is that automatically what happens?
I mean,
because he didn't viciously throw it. It was in the course of the flow. I don't understand the call. Why? I
guess because Sohan looked like he got shot with it. And I mean, he took a good elbow, but yeah, like I said, we've seen worse. We saw worse in that game, but it was one of those bows that, Brady had up high and it just caught him right in the eyebrow. And the refs, for whatever, here's my deal on that. If you're going to call that a flagrant 2 and eject somebody, then get control of the game right there. and it just went totally off the rails after that. It reminded me of the Louisville game at Louisville that Carolina played. But yeah,
Right.
to take him out of the game, I mean, he had 26 at the time. Carolina was cruising. I don't know. I don't like to say officials have a dog in the fight because, like I said, that same crew, I think the ball-headed guy's the one that had the Carolina game Thursday night and thought he did a great job. It was just caught up in the moment, I guess. This constant review stuff is driving me insane watching these games. But yeah, I just what did the group chat have to say? And then I'll let you get out of here, get back to your vacation. What were the guys saying as it was all going down, and then afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's be honest and real. We made a lot of very low basketball IQ plays that helped Baylor get back in this game. You know, from even in overtime, some of the ping pong loose balls, Leakey's pass off the glass, dribbling into the dead corner, reach fouls that led to and ones, miscommunications defensively. We helped Baylor a lot during that stretch, and I felt like they were going to have a run in them. I thought the run would maybe take it from 15-9 or 15-7. I never thought we'd get up 25, and certainly you wouldn't think they would come all the way back and tie it. But so on our chat, just a lot of the mental errors that aided Baylor in coming back were challenging to watch. Plenty of talk about the refs, but also just being happy for Hubert because obviously we know him and we're close to him. And, even for him, it's fair to say he's never been in that situation, right? I mean, trying to coach his way through that and calm the kids down when it was pure chaos out there. The refs lost control of the game. You're without your secondary ball handler, I should say. You're without your best shooter and your leading scorer, at least the last couple of weeks. I mean, it's just pure chaos. So you give the kids credit for finding a way. And I do think you need to be reflective on where we thought we were a month ago, 6 weeks ago, wondering about the heart of this team, people wondering about Hubert's ability to coach. Is he the right guy? Why aren't they together? And now here we are. We won the game we won at Cameron, and now we're in the Sweet 16 and we beat a 1 seed. So you've got to be really proud of these kids, despite the errors and they've got plenty of film. But you got to be really proud of these kids if you're a Carolina fan.
Absolutely. Grew up a lot in the last couple of weeks and grew up a ton today. Managed to find a way. 93-86 over 1 seed Baylor. That's 2 top 5 wins in the last 2 weeks for Carolina basketball. My, how far they've come over the last 6 to 8 weeks. Dewey Burke, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Tom.
Sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt, johnnytshirt.com. Rate us, review us, subscribe, all that good stuff. Carolina wins on to the Sweet 16. We'll talk at you soon.